Greetings, travelers and seekers of knowledge. It is I, the Lunar Skald. Now, before I begin on my usual sort of duty on regaling you with tales of fine knowledge, I would first like to start off with a little bit of self-promotion, shall I put it. I had my first Warhammer 40k battle recently, and I would like to share with you all that I have developed some lore about the battle from the perspective of my own army. I'm wondering about maybe doing other kinds of battles or battle lores that I can come up with, depending on what it is that other members at my local game store might be able to provide. But for now, I'm going to be starting off with this one as it talks specifically about my Adeptus Sororitas Combat Patrol Army at its current state, and how I basically am going to use this as sort of a foundational piece for my own custom order of the Adeptus Sororitas. And I hope you will find it interesting. I plan on doing this, and I am also advertising this on my main channel of the Night Queen, so I'm hoping you all will enjoy what it is that I produce. And of course, maybe I am planning on trying to figure out a design for the canoness of the particular sort of character I want to develop from her. But at the moment, I'm going to simply just have to think about it and see if I can have the motivation to draw her. But yes, I am planning on having that out eventually, and I hope you will all be excited about it. And I will talk about this again at the end, just so that we are all clear and you are free to skip it, but I will be featuring the story on both channels, so nobody is going to be missing out. Anyways, without any further ado, let's go ahead and start with the usual regaling of some RPG horror stories. So, starting off with a, well, I suppose a lawful good player doing what many RPG lawful good players are expected to do. Let's begin. This post is by My Dog's Name is Rumble, and it is titled Lawful Good Player Killed Another Player in the First Session. For background, this was the first session of a homebrew campaign, with a lot of really well-written characters. The characters I will be focusing on in this post are Chadley, the lawful good half-elf wizard, who hates all elves and is part animal for some reason, and Lucinex, the lawful evil elf artificer who was an assassin to make money when inventions weren't selling. Other characters that may be mentioned are Worm and Liv, the tiefling rogues on the run from an evil cult, and Bill and Alice. Bill is a Lokototh... something along that line. A Lokototh rogue, and Alice is a tiefling bard. The conflict came up when the players were arguing over how to play for a stay-in at an inn, and Lucinex recommended killing the owner and staying for free. Chadley was appalled by the idea, and the party eventually settled on Liv's idea to purchase the entire business, but that didn't stop Chadley. After they took a long rest, Chadley's player asked me, "Can I shoot a magic missile at Lucinex?" I say yes, and he proceeded to roll a 20. Wait, I don't think you have to roll to hit with a magic missile. I think we all know that it's an automatic hit. That's like the main thing about magic missile. What are you doing there? Well, anyway, Lucinex failed all 3 saving throws and died. Oh wait, never mind. Okay, I see. When asked why the heck he did that, he said it was because his character hated elves. And Lucinex tried to kill somebody, so she would have no problem trying to kill him, and was clearly the traitor. I had slipped up and said there was a traitor. I'm not going to say who, because one of my players knows my account. Lucinex was not the traitor, however, and was now dead. Am I wrong to think that a lawful good character wouldn't kill somebody without proof? Okay, so let's see. There's actually a little bit more complication with this story than I first expected on the title, but I suppose as the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover, and as equally, don't judge a story based on its title. Now, it is accurate, but clearly the title didn't tell the whole story. I mean, Lucinex definitely was going to do something, well, incredibly evil, and, which, you know, I mean, fair, you wanted to stop your companion from doing something like, I don't know, murdering an innocent town person if you're of the good alignment. However, I'm not entirely sure what was supposed to make that murder lawful, though, from Lucinex. Like, what was supposed to be so lawful about killing the owner? That sounds more chaotic neutral than lawful neutral, I'm just saying. And, I mean, unless it's a contract, I guess, sure, but, I mean, other than that, I don't see how that was supposed to be lawful. Evil, yes, but not lawful. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the things when it comes to having a character. If you're lawful good, actually commit to being lawful good. If you're lawful evil, you have to commit to being lawful evil. Both lawful and evil. Not every evil thing you will be able to do because you're lawful. You can't go the chaotic route because you're being lawful. That's just kind of the obvious thing there, you know? I mean, but, you know, we all know D&D characters. Having a personality alignment chart is just not going to be, most of the time, it's just not actually going to be followed through, and people are just gonna make up whatever because they feel like it. But yeah, Lucinex was attempting to kill somebody. However, I think it also goes without saying that Chadley definitely took things too far there. Trying to kill another player when really you could just, you know, stop them from committing the evil act. Chadley really should have just kind of stepped in front of the person who was about to be killed and murdered, or maybe, I don't know, grappling is an option. It is an option, or knocking the Lucinex down might have also been an option. Apprehending Lucinex is another option, maybe not to the authorities, because eventually you have to break them out, obviously. But, yeah, Lucinex is definitely not completely innocent in this story, because Lucinex literally was going to kill the innkeep. And how is that supposed to go well when, I don't know, you might have a bunch of witnesses that are gonna be like, what the hell, party? Why did you kill him? And yeah, so while yes, Chadley is definitely in the wrong for killing their companion, at the same time, Lucinex was definitely of some partial fault because, well, what else are you going to expect a lawful good character to do? The lawful good character is supposed to protect the innocent. I mean, at the very least, this is consistent with the lawful good, because Lucinex was going to kill somebody. However, the other reasons that Chadley did use, they definitely didn't align with the action. It should have been enough that lawful good was the reason to protect the citizen and try and stop Lucinex from killing them. But instead, Chadley uses they're an elf, and, I believe they are the traitor, but I don't have proof of it. So that part is also where Chadley lies in fault. But, yeah, I kind of think in this particular situation, if this was an am I the asshole post, then I would kind of say everybody's the asshole. So I'm just gonna have it at that point there. Anyways, moving on to the next story. This next story is posted by user Lilium Darkright. Ooh, I like the taste of that name. That's pretty good. Why I, as a DM, never allow persuasion rolls between player characters. Ooh boy, okay, so yeah, I don't honestly think this is really a complex situation. Persuasion rolls, I don't think actually, apply between player characters, because all in all, you should be convincing the player themselves, and no matter how high or low you roll, you are not going to be if you have a reason that does not align with what the player wants for their character, it's just not going to happen. You have to actually, have the player agree with what you are suggesting. You can't convince the character through roles because guess what? That character is controlled by another player, so I think it should be pretty obvious that you don't really do that. You have to actually convince the player themselves to go along with what you want to do. So that's just my kind of thing, but let's see what happens here. It's been a while since my last post, so I figured I'd give it another shot. This happened years ago now as well. If memory serves, this was the second campaign I was ever a part of, and had not begun DMing myself yet. Dialogue is all mostly paraphrasing, as the events of this campaign happened roughly 4 years ago. You all know the drill by now. All names included here are fake. Here's our list of characters. Cassie, first time DM with a penchant for the Feywild. Myself, Homebrew Warforged Artificer with a very high intelligence and wisdom. Troy, high intelligence human wizard. Isaac, Kenku rogue and first-time player. This was actually Isaac's first game and not the one I had DM'd from my last post. I had almost forgotten this campaign due to reasons I'm sure you'll understand soon. Amanda and Rachel, Centaur Bards, yes, plural, and the problem players for tonight's story. There were only a few other party members, but none of them are particularly important to this story. This campaign had been running for a long time at this point, focused around resurrecting a dead nature goddess before life started to die out on the material mortal plane. Our party had been in the Feywild for several sessions by now, which, frankly, everyone was sick of, but that's a story for another day. My first character, a tiefling monk, had recently left the party over trust issues, due to them attempting to sell him into magical slavery in order to convince a powerful Fey enchanter to spare them. So naturally, the DM needed to find a way to introduce my new character to the party. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and pause this for a moment and be like, what the actual fuck party? Why the hell would you try and sell your own companion into magical slavery, or slavery in general, just to save her own hides? I'm just sorry, I'm sorry, but I'm already thinking that everyone is the asshole right here. Except for the OP at the moment, but, you know, that's just really fucked up, I'm being honest here. Anyway, so let's get back. Cassie took this opportunity to allow a few new players to join the main party alongside my artificer, flavoring it as two parties teaming up. This is where Amanda and Rachel both joined the campaign, alongside a satyr paladin and my artificer. In the session that ensued, Amanda and Rachel quickly made themselves the centers of attention. No problem, I thought that's just what bards tended to do. However, this would soon morph into insisting they were going to both lead the party and that we were all going to do as they say. This is frankly a ridiculous request to make in D&D at all, let alone to a 8-person party. Amanda in particular grew increasingly heated and frustrated with the majority of players not being okay with this, arguing for about 20 minutes and completely deadlocking any progress that was to be made in the campaign. This continued until we all heard Rachel giggle to herself, as she interjected to narrate how her bard bursts into a song about how stupid the party was, and how they needed to let the two actually smart ones take the lead. Obviously, most of the party was not particularly concerned at this point until we heard Cassie speak. The conversation went something like this. Alright, Rachel, as you begin to sing to the party, make me a persuasion check. Wait, what? Why would they... Amanda cutting Troy off. Oh, my bard will join Rachel in song, so she gets advantage. Troy. Why would that sound any more sensible in song form? Is the song magical? If so, I cast counterspell. Cassie also cutting Troy off. Alright then, Rachel, go ahead and roll persuasion on the party with advantage. Anyone wanting to contest this, roll your own persuasions. This got me pretty frustrated to say the least. The reason I mentioned I was playing a homebrew artificer is because the class hadn't officially entered D&D 5e yet, and this homebrew variant was based on wisdom. My character had double proficiency bonuses in insight and a 20 in wisdom. If anyone could sniff out bullshit, it was her. But by allowing Rachel and Amanda to roll persuasion on the party and forcing us to contest it with our own persuasion checks, most of us used charisma as a dump stat, Cassie had effectively given the bards the keys to the campaign. Of course, nobody beat Rachel's roll due to her insane bonus to persuasion and combined advantage. Can you guess what happened next as the session continued after this? Did you guess that Rachel and Amanda continued to constantly abuse their newfound ability to control the party with a simple persuasion roll as if we were NPCs? If so, then you get a bardic inspiration after the 4th or so instance of this happening, wherein Amanda and Rachel began a duet after a combat encounter that we should give them all of the gold and loot we had, as well as anything else we get during our adventures. Since they could supposedly keep better track of it, I snapped and put my foot down. fuck that! How can you possibly convince us to hand everything to your characters for the rest of the campaign? What possible talking points could your characters have to make this at all appealing? Casey was upset at this, reminding me that I had to accept the results of the rolls at her table, to which I promptly informed her that I no longer was going to participate in this campaign and left the Discord call. Not my proudest moment, but I was seeing red after putting so much effort into a character just to have her turned into a glorified NPC via a series of absurd persuasion rolls. Isaac would later tell me that Cassie ended the session pretty soon after that, and that Troy also left the campaign. Isaac decided to stay in the campaign just out of some desire to see just how much of a train wreck it would be. He would later tell me that the campaign fizzled out and died, as the DM had given the party a plot-important letter, but Rachel decided she was going to be the one to hold on to it, and that the party should never read it unless she says so, naturally succeeding in persuasion checks. Casey had planned to give the party sessions Cassie had planned to give the party sessions apparently became hours-long slogs of trying to convince Amanda and Rachel to hand over the letter, or the rogue trying to steal it off of the Bards to no success. According to Isaac, the campaign fizzled out and died not long after. It is because of this awful experience I have never allowed the party in my campaign to roll persuasion on each other. Screw that, if my players want to convince each other, they better actually convince each other. Okay, and yeah, basically the last paragraph is practically how it should be. If you're not going to, when it comes to player characters, you don't try to convince through persuasion rolls. You actually convince the actual players what happens when it comes to things that affect the players. If they are not okay with it, they are not going to have fun being constantly persuaded by the Bards. And that actually reminds me of a little bit of something from Den of the Drake. And he basically said, in situations like this, Bards may as well be the party leaders. And wouldn't you know it, this is literally a situation where the Bards are the party leaders. And it's just baffling to think that, even back then, I thought something like that had to have been totally ridiculous. And then, wow. Just wow, I actually come across a story where the Bards not only are the party leaders, but literally convince the rest of the party to do everything because of bullshit persuasion rolls. Wow. And honestly, OP, you definitely had no reason to feel guilty about that. I don't care what you think, that would have been a proud moment for me. I mean, sure, this may have been a group of your friends or people that you cared about deeply, anything along that line, and sure, generally people people do not take kindly to people who just can't be calm or whatever, but let's be fucking real here. There is not always going to be a moment where you can just handle things by quietly accepting what's going on, because that's literally how abuse continues on. And to be able to put your foot down and snap at what is literally the problem happening, and if there is nothing being done about it, clearly, the DM, what an absolute bitch. I mean, there is no way you can justify having this amount of abuse when it comes to persuasion rolls. This DM is absolutely the worst. And there is just no way to go about. Cassie is just full on the worst. And it's really debatable whether Cassie or Amanda and Rachel were the bigger assholes. I think collectively, they end up making the unholy trinity of the worst DM and the worst players. And it's just, there's just no way to be able for me to continue on saying more, because I'm just going to continue rambling about how horrible that is. But OP, you were definitely not in the wrong for calling their shit out. I know that there is also the thing where you have to privately speak with the DM or speak with the players about the problems, but clearly they had no issue with what was going on, and you ended up making the ultimate move. No D&D is better than bad D&D, and really, it is so satisfying to know that right after they were just losing their victims of abuse, that suddenly the campaign just ended up being like, oh, well, now we have nobody to abuse with our persuasion bullshit. So I guess now we don't have a campaign, even though we had a whole story going on here. Just, you know what, Cassie? I hope you learned something valuable about this. But if you didn't, continue to have the worst luck. And I will double down on that hex that is going to be very heartily and very warmly gifted to you. And when I say very warmly, expect the worst kind of warmth to come from it. With the stories over, I think that'll just end this video. And wow, there was just so much to go from that last one. But yes, hopefully you will keep these stories in mind as both a player and a DM. Players, find better ways to be able to work and cooperate with your party. Do not try and dominate them, and most certainly, do not try to act like you are the party leader, especially if you're going to go with bullshit roles that mean absolutely nothing. And DMs, seriously, have some damn self-awareness. I know this goes for players as well, but the DMs who do stuff like this clearly had a lack of self-awareness. DMs who have a self-awareness and know what's going on, they are more than capable of being able to handle a problem going on. And if you are aware of not just the problems that other players can commit, but you yourself might be responsible for, then you have a better way of being able to handle the situation. So DMs, anybody who is working on being a DM, anybody who is starting on being a DM, even if you're a veteran DM, have some self-awareness. Be able to know exactly what it is that you are doing wrong, know the problems that are going on, and from it, learn from those mistakes. Mistakes are there to learn from, and if you don't learn from your mistakes, well then I guess you're just going to continue not having any players that are going to be playing in your campaign, and there's just nothing else to be said after that, really. I think you get the result then. But that will be the end of this video, and as I said at the beginning of the video, I am going to be making my own Adeptus Sororitas lore video. I currently have the script written out for all the things that happened with the battle, and I feel like I wrote out a very exciting and interesting battle. It was definitely a very hard battle, and I think it is very well done when it comes to talking about some human struggles when it comes to, I'm not going to continue bragging about my story, that's probably going to lead to a few issues, but I did put a lot of work and effort and a lot of passion into making this, so I hope that the quality of the lore is just as good as the amount of work that I put in, and that you all enjoy it, and I had a lot of fun making it, and I will definitely see about trying to make sure that I have the video set up as soon as possible, and with that, we're gonna end the video, so I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the tales that came about, and until next time, rest well this fine evening, and farewell.